The art of negotiation, you have to learn. You have to be trained in how to communicate. One, how to speak. Two, how to listen. And every negotiation is about coming with a win-win scenario. If I negotiate and you're not happy, that will leave a bad taste in your mouth. If I negotiate and I purchase and I'm not happy, it'll leave a bad taste in my mouth. So you have to find a way to find a halfway house that's a win-win scenario. Some people, you aren't able to help them because they don't want to be helped. If somebody says to you, help me, then you can start to help them. But when you try to help somebody that's not ready, just like with Pamela's not ready to give up smoking, change their calorie intake, they're not ready. So you giving them that advice and trying to shower them that knowledge and that energy, they're not ready for it. People go from one extreme to the other without understanding how they got to where they are and where they need to get to. They try and get things overnight. Have gratitude for whatever you have in life. Don't look at other people. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Just compare yourself to who you were the day before.
Welcome back to Take a Seat. I believe it's all about being vigilant. And that's exactly what I was doing even while on holiday. I was in Albania a few weeks ago meeting the Prime Minister. And then I met this amazing guy on the beach. He actually looked like a 21-year-old, even though his biological age didn't reflect that. But his story is truly amazing. He's come from poverty, but gone on a self-education journey to do over £50 million in property deals. And I would love to share with you Immanuel Ezekiel. Did I pronounce that right?
Close enough for me.
Go on to tell us exactly how it's pronounced.
Immanuel Ezekiel.
Ezekiel. Okay. Now, because it's really important to get people's names correct, I feel.
It is.
You know. But thank you for joining us today. What a pleasure. And before we even start, I would just like to ask, like, what inspired your outfit today? Because you're very, very well dressed.
Thank you. I think it's coming into the summer.
Yes.
I wanted to be bright, colourful. You're a very bright, colourful character. So I wanted my clothes to match your personality.
Amazing. Where did you get your outfit from?
Most of my outfits, I think the jeans and the jacket, I think are from Zara.
Okay.
And the shirt I got from a friend shop that used to sell tuxedos and stuff like that. He has unusual clothes which I like to buy and purchase.
Amazing. Well, you look really good. Do brands matter to you?
Not at all.
Because you've just said you bought that from Zara, and Zara's like not the lowest, but it's not like, you know, D&G or, you know, Armani, but you've carried it off so well. So many young people nowadays look at brands to give them confidence. Is that the right mindset?
No, it's not the right mindset, because a brand is just getting you to consume or spend your money on things that you don't necessarily need or actually want. You can buy really well, look really good without having to spend a fortune, and hopefully most of the stuff I wear tends to reflect that.
What actually does confident mean?
Confident is in different aspects, different areas. So we're all confident in areas of our knowledge or experience or expertise, and often not confident in areas that we don't have knowledge, experience, and expertise.
Emmanuel, look, I'm walking into a room. I want to make an impact. I'm thinking this jacket that I'm wearing or these D&G glasses, which shows it all over. People say, wow, that's 250, that's 300. He looks confident. He must have money. That's going to give you confidence. What, in your terms, what is confidence when you walk into a room?
So confidence for me is not about how expensive the clothes are or the watches I wear or the cars that I drive. It's about how I look, it's how I stand, and how I speak. Because that's really what people are drawn to, is who you are and your energy, not your clothes or what you wear. And often you attract the wrong kind of people when they think you just have money or you're trying to prove something. I'm at a grand old age where, thankfully, I don't have to prove much to anyone other than myself.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by energy?
So energy is about how we portray ourselves. So when you're around people that are depressed or miserable, their energy is very low. They speak softly. They speak low. Their breath is internal. You don't want to be around those people. But when you have people that have high energy, that make you smile and laugh, just look at comedians, how much they command in audiences of money, because their energy and the way that make you feel, they raise your energy, they elevate you, so you want to be around them. We all have friends that their personality is so infectious, we love being around them. And we also have friends that aren't quite the same, and we tend not to spend quite as much time with them. So energy is really important, and how you manage your energy is what will attract around you the people that you want and the things in your life that you want. Energy is really critical.
I love that. But I'm sure all of us, if not yourself, have all experienced having that one toxic friend that we're holding on to or did hold on to. There's certain people that you grow up with and you do outgrow people. And you'll still have this friend who you'd want to really try and help, but all they tend to do is just end up sucking your energy and telling you their problems or why life isn't good. And you're trying to be that superhero in their life and going, yeah, I know we both came from the same place, but I'm going to try pick you up. I'm going to try make it. And it's just like hitting your head against a wall. How do you manage toxic people?
Yeah, it is like hitting your head against a brick wall. And if you're good by nature, you want to help the people around you, the people that you like, the people that you love. But there comes a point where there's a saying, how would I phrase the actual saying? If you do the same things that you've always done, you'll always get the results that you've always got. And some people just aren't able to help them because they don't want to be helped. If somebody says to you, help me, then you can start to help them. But when you try to help somebody that's not ready, just like with Pamela, who's not ready to give up smoking or to change their calorie intake, they're not ready. So they're not ready for that help or that advice. So you giving them that advice and trying to shower them that knowledge and that energy, they're not ready for it. They're just not ready. And by nature, we do it because we want to help.
Yeah.
But there comes a point where you say, you know what? I'll be your friend, but I'm not going to give you any advice. And personally, I now spend less time with those people because it does drain your energy, and then you get infected and affected by them. And I don't want to be infected or affected by somebody's energy. It's just like if somebody's not well. You don't want to be infected by them as well as affected. So the same is with their energy, right?
Yeah.
You have to manage your energy to make sure that you're optimum. So as we get older, we get a bit more knowledge, experience, and we understand that we can still have friendship, but maybe more of at a distance.
Can you share your age?
I can.
Yes.
I'm 62.
Right, you're 62 years old, and your vibration's still very high. I've seen you on the beach. You're nice, chirpy. You're going around talking to people. I've seen you in conference rooms, and you're being not cheeky, but you're having banter with everybody. A lot of 60-plus-year-olds are not like that. So, what are some of the things that you do or done to keep this sort of energy?
Well, first of all, I'm not 62 years old. I'm 62 years young.
Okay.
And that's a frame of mind. I see myself as a person of energy and vibrance. And how we think internally has an experience externally for the people that we meet. So for me, my health, as you probably gathered, is really important to me. So keeping my energy high. So I go to the gym between 5 and 7 days a week.
Wow. That's a lot.
Well, not really. So if you think about most of the things that we do every day, we eat every day, we drink every day. We do things to nourish our body in terms of water and fuel. There's other things that we need to do to maintain our body. If you go to any athlete or somebody that is in business, they will do things on a consistent basis to get consistent results. And they say how you do anything is how you do everything. And you have to have that consistency, and you have to show up even when you don't want to show up. And my energy, is part of it, is my nutrition, but more importantly, the gym. It gives me those endorphins to make me feel good. So I was there this morning before I came here.
Amazing. How do you stay disciplined? Because a lot of people find it a chore to go to the gym. How do you say to myself, I'm going to get up? Because there's actually studies out there. 95% of people stop running after the age of 29. I found that really, really hard to believe. After school's over, PE's over, and a couple of young sports, when people get into their jobs and families, they never sprint again. And that sounds like a horror movie to me, hearing that. Like,
Yeah.
but why is that?
To stay fit and to stay on track is difficult. So if you look at how society's changed since the Second World War, where people were thin because they were on rationing. They didn't have everything in abundance like we do now. We didn't have fast food. So it's easier to take the easy road. So the food that we have now, most of it, the processed food, is full of sugar and salt. It's lots of fats. It's not the essential food that we need. We need nutritious food. We're made 70% of water. So if our body's made 70% of water, what do we need to give it? Food that has at least 70% of water. We need food and nutrition. And I look at ourselves, our brain, our body, as a Ferrari or a Formula One car. Can you imagine a Formula One car on the track and giving it the wrong fuel, or the wrong driver, or the wrong mechanic, or the wrong teams around it? What would happen to that car in the first lap, let alone after 50 laps?
Wow.
So how you do there's a process to everything that you do to get results. And if you want your body to be optimum, there's a saying, your body will look after you to the age of 40. From the age of 40 onwards, you have to look after your body. But why not look after your body all the way through? When we go to hospital, what do we see in hospital when people start to die? That not are they just old, they're frail, they're weak. They die of weakness because they can't hold their body, they can't maintain their body. They're in wheelchairs, their heads are hunched. So strength and conditioning, I'm passionate about this. You know, I did a photo shoot at the age of 60 because I wanted to show that anybody at any age, if you put your time, mind, effort, and energy into it, you could achieve things that most people think are not possible or impossible. In fact, the word impossible means I'm possible.
I love that. I agree with everything you're saying, but I'm going to play like devil's advocate here. Like, you know, everything we see in the media, it's just promoting brands. If you think of red and yellow, straight away I'm seeing McDonald's. Like, it's like being conditioned. It's what do you get from McDonald's for kids? It's called a Happy Meal. It's a meal that makes you happy. Yes, it's full of salts, sugars, processed as hell, but it's supposed to make your child happy. We're conditioned from a very young age.
It's
Studies
worse than that.
and studies in 1950s, 60s, 70s sort of changed the diet as well, because they said that fats were actually totally bad for you and you should be having more carbohydrates, you know, and that's why people from that era started eating more carbs rather than more protein and fats. And you can see it looks like someone sort of got it wrong here, but we trust our governments, we trust the TV, the news, studies, what people like show us. Like even COVID taught us a lot. We just listen to them, take the jab, you know. So sometimes we feel like we're not led. So where is this information? Where do I find some of this information to say, how do I help myself and let me not be a sheep and follow the herd?
If you're listening to this, don't trust anyone. Don't believe anyone, including me and Sean. You need to verify all the information that you get from the right source, because people give us information and we think it's coming from the right place. Our parents might tell us not to go into property because they have no experience in that. Doesn't mean the advice they're giving us is not coming from the right place. It's just the wrong advice. We have to verify any information that we get. We're led by governments, and we know what happened during the lockdown, what the real truth is. In terms of food and nutrition, why do you think they went down the route of carbohydrates rather than proper food that is natural? It's about money. It's about money. You know, look at the sugar frosties. Look at the the Weetabix, the Rice Krispies. It's about getting children at an early age to change their eating habits, thinking it's healthy for them. It's anything but healthy. Really, anything but healthy.
Kind of cruel because, like, even though a lot of us want to make a change, we do it for 3-4 days, and it's like something in your brain really, like some sort of hormone going, eat that. You're not going to feel right until you eat that. And even like coaches tell you, have a cheat meal to bring your leptin levels back or your cortisol levels, where you're holding on, and allow your body to say everything's normal, but it's come from a thought. Like, sometimes I see a lot of Europeans look really healthy because although some of these countries may, have poverty, I heard some of my friends some of my best friends are Europeans. They go, when I grew up, my mum used to say, run in the garden and go and get an apple off the tree.
Yeah.
We were fed like, Chewits or £1 drumsticks or, go and have a packet of crisps. The whole culture's different. But you can see it in their body that, how do you stay in shape? They're like, oh, I don't like chocolate. I don't like the taste of it. What? How can you not? Like, we're sort of conditioned. They're like, I'd rather eat apple, fruit, get some nutrition. But water, I need that.
So your body needs water. It needs fluid. It needs liquid. But the foods that we have, sugar, it's more addictive than cocaine. So it's a drug. So like any drug, you have to be weaned off of it. And your body goes into a sugar craving when you don't have it. So you have to do things naturally. People go from one extreme to the other without understanding how they got to where they are and where they need to get to. They try and want things overnight to happen. Because we live in a modern world where everything is instant, people want instant gratification. And when it comes to cheat meal, I wouldn't call it a cheat meal. Who wants a cheat?
No.
Why not call it a treat? Just changing the language will change the actual meaning to it. Because if you cheat in one area, where else in life are you cheating? It's a mindset. You don't cheat, you treat, you reward yourself. It's a different way of saying that you want to have something slightly different, because we all come off the bandwagon from time to time. Nobody's perfect, but it's your consistency. And when you come off the track, how quickly you come back on the track again. And whenever you try something new, the first 30 days are the most difficult because you haven't created new habits. You're not into conditioning yourself into a new habit. That's why people that do New Year's resolutions, within 6 weeks, 95% of all new resolutions are gone. That's why the gyms have the highest intake in January and nobody's there in February, because they're not consistent. And when it comes to your health or training, you don't get the good endorphins when you start. That's a fallacy. It takes you 4 to 6 weeks for that new conditioning to take effect where you get that. And that's why people give up, because it's hard. Going to the gym and do things you haven't done before. And what most people do, they overexert themselves. They go to the gym for the first time, not for 20 minutes or half an hour, they go for 2 hours. It's just unrealistic.
They're aching and hurting too much, and then it puts them off even more.
Exactly. Why would you go if you're aching? The whole point is to do it so you don't ache, so you go back again.
Okay. So people are doing it incorrectly. Go when you're wanting to go gym, just do it for 15-20 minutes first time, and get yourself just into them small little habits.
You don't even need to go to the gym. Go for a walk. Get your 10 to 15,000 steps. That alone will burn lots of calories.
I agree.
You don't have to go. You can work out at home with no equipment whatsoever, just using your body. You don't even have to pay for a gym membership. It's so easy.
I wanted to ask you, do you believe in some of these products where it says 0 sugar, but then it has alternatives in there?
Do I believe in them in what context? Do I believe that it's got no sugar?
Here's a syrup. Oh, you like syrup, but this has got no sugar in it.
Anything that we're sold in terms of liquid, other than natural, like things like water, fresh orange juice that you squeeze yourself, coffee, most of the drinks aren't really good for you. They're just not.
I had somebody on the podcast yesterday, actually, and he's got these energy drinks out. And he goes, I've got 4.5 grams of sugar in this. And he goes, you're supposed to have sugar, natural sugar, and that's what I've put in here. A lot of these other like Prime or Boost or Red Bull, they're promoting sugar-free. And he said, "Do you know why they're promoting sugar-free, Sean? First of all, they're giving you like sucrose and other things, but there's a tax that has come out that if there's more than sort of 8 grams of sugar, they have to pay higher tax.
Correct.
So their motive is, well, let's make sugar-free stuff, not because we care about you, but we'll give you all these other chemicals that you can't even read, but it's just so we don't pay more tax." Have you heard of that?
I have heard of that. I said, look at most things that you buy in the supermarket, especially drinks. Look at the chemicals inside it. That's what you're taking inside your body. You have a glass of Coca-Cola. Just put some Coca-Cola in a glass and put an old penny in there or 2 pence. Leave it in there for 5 or 10 minutes. See what happens to that 2 pence. But if it's doing that to the 2 pence, what's it doing to your insides? Put it in your toilet bowl at home. See the colour that your toilet comes back up at. So if it's doing that to your toilet, what's it doing to your insides?
I understand. Yes. So what is the diet? Because look, I'm conditioned by McDonald's. I'm conditioned, like if I'm seeing white and red, I'm seeing Coca-Cola already. It's one of the most like famous drinks, At one point, even people were being brainwashed in cinemas because it was flickering in the corner, even though it was invisible until that was made illegal. What is the correct diet?
The correct diet is things that are produced naturally. Vegetables, fruit, meat, chicken, fish, eggs. That's the natural stuff that we have.
Vegetables are boring.
They're not.
No?
Not at all. And I'll tell you why. When we start off eating, that's what we eat. Our body craves good food. It really craves it. When you start giving your body good food, it craves it. But when you give it all the processed foods and all the sugar, you're conditioning it to a new way. It's a drug. So your body craves the drug. Sugar is like cocaine. Coke, it can be Coca-Cola or Coke, right?
They're telling you.
They're telling you, we're giving you a drug. Instead of being the one you put up your nose, you drink it, right? So food is so important. And when you eat good food, your energy goes through the roof. It really goes through the roof. When you're having processed food, you have a sharp energy increase, and then you have a massive crash. When you have natural food, you don't have that. Your body craves natural food. If you look at somebody that eats natural food and somebody that eats processed foods, just from the colour of their skin, you can tell what they eat.
Right. I love that. And people don't understand what processed food means, so it's almost like taking something really big and just disintegrating it and making it really compact. And normally it's the most unnatural thing that you would do to have, like, you couldn't eat 10 bananas at the same time with that sugar intake or whatever it's got in. But we're eating stuff that is at that capacity, squashed down, and we're having it in a bite. And then we think, why do we have high blood pressure? Why do we have cholesterol? Why is all these things happening? But I feel that there's a level of government that's failed us here then, because they're supposed to be leading people, helping people, and they're allowing all these companies to just make their money.
Which government really helps people? Which government?
I don't know. Is there?
Governments are there for control and to create money for corporations, not for the individuals. And business is all about getting us as consumers to consume whatever they want us to consume. So whether it be brands, whether it be food. And if you look at the supermarket today compared to the supermarket of 50 years ago, you'll see the difference between the food that we used to eat and the nutrition that we had compared to where we are today. We've just been conditioned to a different thing now. The marketing, advertising, even when we go to the supermarket, how we shop and how they get us to spend money is very different.
That's interesting you say that. You just brought something up in my head. I saw something online and it showed a video of a shopping mall 30 years ago. And the most shocking thing was there wasn't a mobile phone in sight. and everyone was looking around. People were communicating, have a laugh and joke, walking. They just look so present. And how often do we go through a shopping center and people are just like, "Oops, sorry," like they're not even looking around. We're living in a totally different world. What do you think of technology in terms of how we consume it?
Technology has become addictive.
Hmm.
It's another drug. The technology companies, the phone companies know how to it's all about getting our attention.
Yeah.
That's why people want likes. That's why they want things to ping. You get that endorphin hit and that serotonin. It's all designed to keep us online for as long as possible, to sell as many products and services. That's why Amazon, Google, that's why you and I are talking. If our phone's in the background, I guarantee you, whatever we talk about, an hour later, when you go on one of the media channels like Facebook, you'll see something you've been talking about popping up because it's listening all the time. So technology has a great place as well, but using the right way. It can help you grow, it can help you expand, it can get a reach, get people investors, you can get social media presence. It can make you and your brand more known. But it also has the capacity to take all your time and drain all your energy. So you spend all your time there, not really focused, as you said, on relationships. One, your relationship with yourself. Two, relationship with others. And that's how we used to communicate, like this. This is a much nicer way of communication than it is by phone, right?
Absolutely, 100%. So use social media, don't get used by social media, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Amazing. So let's get down to some of the real stuff now. Like it's amazing we've just spoke a little bit about diet and mindset and environment, because these are the things that dictate what we do. Like you said, how we do something is how we do everything. So you've got a story where you sort of come from nothing really, poverty. What was life like growing up? Where did it all start, Emmanuel?
So I grew up in Stoke Newington.
Okay.
And I got to be honest, I didn't know we were poor. And the reason why I didn't know, because everybody else was. So if you're living in the same, you're conditioned by your environment. So everybody was living the same. I can't say I didn't have a happy childhood, because I had a very happy childhood. I had amazing parents, part of a small community. I only realized that we were poor when I went to secondary school. And I had to travel an hour and a half each way every day for 5 years. I went from Stoke Newington to Camden Town, from Camden Town to Golders Green, and from Golders Green to Hendon. I got a bus, a train and a bus. And then when I went to secondary school, even when I got to secondary school, we all had uniforms. You didn't really know there was any difference. It's only when I started getting invited to other children's or pupils' homes, or going to their functions. Being Jewish, we have bar mitzvahs, and seeing the scale of these kind of functions to really realize that I was completely out of my league in that particular school with the other pupils there. So that was the first point I realized that we were poor.
Why did you travel so far for a school?
So traveled very fast. There was nearer schools, but my parents were very religious.
Right. Okay.
And the school they wanted me to go to was a religious school, and they wanted me to have not only a formal education, but wanted me to have a religious education. So that's where they sent me. And also the schools that my brothers went to, which was also a Jewish school, they didn't do particularly well. So they wanted me to not be influenced by the same kind of environment.
Okay. So then you started noticing that you weren't the same as the other kids. Did that affect anything? Like, did people still treated you fairly, correctly? Did you still feel that you were enough, or?
No, they didn't treat me the same. So they really treated me like the poor kid. So you get that in all cultures where you've got somebody that's poor. They're not seen in the same sort of light. I was also small-ish, so I was bullied. So that's part of my journey about fitness, about being strong and healthy, is to look after and take care of myself, which I did. And I got into other things like judo and boxing and a few other bits of martial arts. So it's only at school that I realized there was a difference. And I guess the real motivation came when I was leaving school at the age of just before 16. My head of year said to me, because I failed my exams, that I'd be a failure all my life.
Really?
And that comment was, fuck you. It really was. Who are you to tell me as a school teacher that I'm a failure because I can't pass exams? So I had that, you know, when somebody lights a fire,
Yeah.
I had that fire. So it was to prove him wrong and other people that I could succeed. It took me a while to find the path,
Yeah.
but that was really one of the main triggers for me.
Do you thank that teacher today?
100%. 100%. Because sometimes you need a kick up the arse.
Yes.
And that was a kick up the arse that I needed.
Amazing. And what was your first sort of instance in terms of work?
Oh, I did a lot of things. So at school, because I didn't have money, I had to create ways to create money. So I created a gambling school.
Gambling school?
A gambling school. So you used to pay penny up the wall.
Yeah.
They used to do that, and penny up the wall, and used to flick it. And I would do that. I got very good at that. So we had that in the playground. Then I then started to look for other ways to make money. So on my street, which was Fountain Road, we had conker trees. So in the winter, I'd collect all the conkers and I'd either sell them as they were, or I'd actually go and bake them in the oven and sell the actual conkers at a penny a time.
Wow.
Then in the summer, I used to run a tuck shop. I'd stop off and get some ice pops, put them in my bag and sell them at lunchtime. And I'd also buy sweets and chocolates and sell them to the other kids at school just to make some money.
Is that all it was for? You thought you need money?
Yeah. And I needed money because I wanted to buy stuff. We didn't get pocket money.
Yeah.
Growing up, in terms of clothes and things like that, I'd only get some new clothes on my birthday or hand-me-downs. So that was the norm, though. It didn't feel like it wasn't the norm. Just that's how people did it.
Just coming off this topic from your journey, what advice are you giving somebody who's got it, I wouldn't say easy, but it's just their normal? You know, for example, my kids are growing up in a, luxury house. They're growing up in silk pajamas. Obviously not what I do with my kids, but what advice are you giving in terms of if your kids are already growing up in something that looks normal in terms of, first of all, is that a good thing? Because sometimes like there's people like Grant Cardone who says, look, I'm giving my daughter some food and I'm giving her loads and loads and loads of it because I'm teaching her life is abundance. It's about more. It's about you can have whatever you want, as much as you want. But then I was never taught like that. I was taught restrict yourself and don't have as much because then you'll work harder because you want it and you'll do it yourself. What is the right approach?
There is no real right approach. As I said, don't believe what I say.
Yeah.
Verify and everything. So for me, having a challenge or adversity or making your kids work for their pocket money will teach them the value of money. When you're given something for free, whatever it is, you're not going to value it. You just don't.
Isn't that cruel? You've got money, you're not giving them to the kids.
My job as a parent is to be a parent. It's not to be their friend. It's to teach them skills in life. Because if I'm not around, what skills will they have? So that's my job. Our parents before us, their job was the same. They understood that. And when you're resilient, when you know how to go through adversity, you have the skills. If you're given everything, what skills do you have? They'll have it anyway because you're accumulating the wealth. They'll have it at some point. But give it to them when they're ready. Make sure they have the skills to understand how to make the money, keep the money, reinvest the money, and to be grateful for it.
And sometimes we have that attitude, but other people will be like, why are you so serious? Why don't you just let them be kids?
So we all treat our kids differently. So my kids get all the things that you've said. They get the holidays, but if they want something, they have to work for it. My kids will tell you, I'm not that easy. And when they were younger, they probably didn't like it. We ask them now, and they'll say, Dad, thank you. Giving me skills. My son's in Dubai. He's set up his business. He'll be there about a year and a half. He's doing social media. And a few weeks ago, he said to me, Dad, you know what? Thank you. I really didn't realize until now what you were trying to teach me. That's my job. If they don't need, my kids don't need to like me. They need to respect me. My job is not to be their friend. It's to be their parent. And do I always do the right thing? No. Nobody teaches us how to be a parent, do they?
No.
So it's trial and error. We do the best that we can. But I know from my parents, because we didn't have anything, it's given me the skills, it's given me the strength to move forward. Because when you don't have anything to start with, there's only one way, right? It teaches you the ability to go through adversity when you have it.
Love that. So you've just left school. Your teacher said you're never going to amount to anything. What path did you go on?
So my brother is 8 years older than me. My brother was in the bathroom business, designing and selling bathrooms, and he thought it was a good idea if I went to be a heating and ventilating engineer. So he would design it and sell it, and I'd go and install it. So I did a 4-year apprenticeship as a heating and ventilating engineer, not far from here at Tottenham College of Technology. I did a 4-year apprenticeship there, but I realised very quickly that it was never going to be the profession for me. So even when I was working on building sites, and the first building site I worked on was the new wing at Felton Borstal Prison. So I would, again, like I did my tuck shop, I would actually go to Hatton Garden and I'd pick up jewellery and I'd sell it on the building site. I'd sell it over Christmas and other times of the year just to make some extra money. So I knew that I would never do that. I then created my first market stall. I was lucky around to have one of my friends' dads was an importer. He was importing roller skates.
Okay.
Long time ago, where they were first the craze. And the first roller skates that came weren't with metal bases, they were plastic. So I made a market stall out of pipework and wood, and went to Petticoat Lane, Brick Lane. And at the age of 17, I had about 6 staff working for me, selling roller skates. Again, just to make some money. My brother had a very battered old van that I bought from him for £50.
Wow.
And we used that to go from one market stall to the other. So that's how I started my journey of, I guess, entrepreneurship, earning money. And then as soon as I finished my apprenticeship, well, actually, just before I finished my apprenticeship, I was in synagogue, which is called it synagogue or shul, for one of the Jewish high holidays. And I was sitting next to a guy, his name's Jack Abrahams, and I'll tell you a story about him a bit later. He was working for a company called Server Warm, selling central heating, telling me just how much money he was earning selling central heating. He said, well, why don't you come and have an interview, and I'll get you an interview. He arranged an interview, but he left the company and went to another company called Harp Heating. He said, look, come to this company instead. I was 19. I went for the interview. The guy said, how old are you, the manager? I said, I'm 25, because they only take people at a certain age. They gave me the job. I left my apprenticeship the day it actually finished. I then followed this guy, Jack Abrahams, for 6 weeks, literally every single appointment he went on. And I then went selling. The first week I started selling, I actually outsold him.
Wow.
And I didn't realize then that's what he's modeling. Copy somebody that's really doing really well. He was the top salesman. Copy exactly what they do and you'll get very similar results. And I didn't realize then that the fastest way to accomplish something is to copy somebody that's already doing something well and do the same. And that's exactly what I did.
Wow. Amazing. How did he feel about that when you outsold him?
He was chuffed. He really was chuffed. One, because he trained me, so he got all the kudos for training me. And the funny thing was, after the first week, they called us both in and tried to interrogate us that he was selling for me, but he really wasn't. He was doing his appointments, I was doing mine, but I was just following his structure and his format.
So when you're getting paid now, you're getting money for all of these sales as well. What was you doing with your money?
I was saving. So I was lucky enough to still be at home. So I bought my first house at 19.
Wow.
Everyone said I was crazy. Remember I said, trust no one, believe no one. Mm-hmm. They did it out of concern and trying to protect me because I didn't have a regular job. It was commission only. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to buy a property. I bought my first property in Gresham Road in Edgware, number 13 Gresham Road, for 39,500.
Wow.
And those were the days where you had to go to a bank manager with your cap in hand, where they would approve you. I had a financial advisor that came with me, came sit with me to get me the mortgage. So I had that for, I think, 11 months. I sold it 11 months later for 52,500. I thought, wow.
That's a lot of money. So you made about 13,000?
13,000, yeah.
And that was a lot of money.
That was a lot of money then. I then bought my next house for 72,500 in Fernhurst Gardens. And I sold that a couple of years later for 250,000.
Wow.
So I wasn't in property, I was just buying. Didn't really know about property. That was just luck.
How did you know that that's an asset class you want to start buying? But it doesn't even come into a thought.
It
with some
wasn't an
people.
asset class. I didn't want to be at home. I said I come from a very religious background. I didn't want to disrespect my parents. I wanted to do things that I wanted to do. And it just, the natural progression. And because I was in selling central heating, I was seeing one house after another. It felt like I wanted to improve and upgrade to something better. You know, just like maybe clothes or cars, you go from one to another as you start earning more. So it was just a natural progression for me without really knowing or understanding anything about property.
So at this young age, you're like 19, 20, 21, you're starting to do these business deals, which is, you know, one of the biggest games in the world is property. And you're starting to buy it, sell it. You realize you can start making some good lump sums. What were your parents thinking?
My parents are very traditional, come from small villages, so they were always apprehensive. They're not business people. My mum worked as a dinner lady at the school that I went to. My dad worked in an abattoir. So they weren't business people at all, so always employee mentality. They always thought that I was taking risks, but I had their love and I had their support, so they didn't really put any real, what I call, pressures on me.
So when did life start changing for you? So you start doing these business deals. When did you think, hang on, I'm going to take this a little bit more seriously?
So I started taking property seriously probably in my 30s.
Right. So that's nearly a decade of trading.
Yeah. So the trading I did, I didn't realize I was actually trading at the time. They say you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know what you don't know. What don't you know? So the next house I bought was a house in Edgebury Lane. And I bought that, I think, for 275. And I did an extension. I sold that a few years later for 550. I then saw another house in the same road, and I bought that again, I think, for about 275. I spent about 250,000 on it, and it was worth well over $1 million.
Wow.
It was an 8-bedroom, 5 bathrooms, swimming pool, detached property that I actually built on it. And all I was doing was taking the income I was earning from my savings, or from my selling, and reinvesting it. That's what I thought was just a good thing. I didn't think about any other kind of property. And I changed from Harp Heating to a company called Sharp's Bedrooms. You might have heard of them.
Yes, I've got under my stairs. I've got the wooden touch drawers done recently.
And I was lucky enough to be at the right place at the right time. I went from Harp to Sharp's, and they were looking to franchise. Because I was, again, when I started that company, what I did, I followed the top salesman for 4 weeks, copied what he did. And again, the first week I was the top salesman. I was never out the top 2 for over 10 years.
Wow.
And then they offered a franchise, and I'm reasonably good with numbers. And the package they were offering on the franchise, they didn't realize how attractive it was. So I'm reasonably good at negotiation. So I negotiated a very large territory, which meant not only could I sell, I could employ other people to sell on my behalf within my territory. So I got an override on what they did, plus the remuneration package on the sales. That allowed me to really accelerate my savings and my investments quite dramatically.
So you sort of found your money belt.
Yeah, I found my money belt. One of the things I did very early on without realizing as well is I had some financial advisors advise me where to invest. And then I had an aha moment that these guys aren't wealthy. They're selling products and services. Why am I taking advice from them? So what I did is I took my own financial services exams from my own knowledge, not to become a financial, an independent financial advisor. I wanted it for my own knowledge, my own advice, that I had the right information to invest more wisely. And then I started buying what most people probably don't realize is what's called below market value insurance policies.
Okay. No.
Yeah. So people often have that look of confusion. So because I'm older, when we used to buy property, we had two ways of buying property, either capital and repayment or interest only.
Yes.
And interest only also used to come with an insurance policy called an endowment policy. An endowment policy would run for 20, 25 years. You pay a monthly premium each year. And at the end of the policy, you had a balloon payment, which would add another 10, 15, 20,000 to the actual policy. But lots of people, like property, get into financial difficulty. So there was at the time a secondary market for purchasing distressed below market value endowment policies. So instead of the policy, its maturity value being 30,000 and today's value maybe 20, I would buy them at 10. I would then carry on making the premiums on their behalf, and I'd have all of these policies maturing 1 year after another. So I learned very quickly about that, but I still didn't know about property at that point.
Wow.
Had no skills about property. You don't know what you don't know, right?
Yes. I want to pick out something what you've said. You was able to negotiate that sharp steel. How do you learn how to negotiate and how the art of getting things in more favor of yourself?
The art of negotiation it's an art. You have to learn it. You have to be trained in how to communicate. One, how to speak. Two, how to listen. And every negotiation is about coming with a win-win scenario. If I negotiate and you're not happy, that will leave a bad taste in your mouth. If I negotiate and I purchase and I'm not happy, it'll leave a bad taste in my mouth. So you have to find a way to find a halfway house that's a win-win scenario. And I've become very good at doing that. When it comes to creativity, putting deals together, package a deal together, communicating, that's something that I've learned, not from myself. I've had some great people I've learned from. Tony Robbins is one of them. T. Harv Eker is another one. Keith Cunningham, who was also one of the authors of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I've had some really good people and mentors. And, NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, it's a skill that allows you to communicate much more effectively, to understand what the person wants and what they need. Because what people say and what they mean are two different things.
And some people think NLP is like the devil's work or something. You're getting somebody in an emotional state to do something at that stage, but they really actually didn't want. What's your opinion on that?
Like most skills, they can be used for good or they can use for bad purposes. So NLP is how we take on information. It's Neuro-Linguistic Programming. It's how we all take in information on board. So when you're selling a product or a service, if you truly believe in your product or your service, my belief is you have an obligation, one, to your client to make sure they make the right decision, two, to yourself. So I would never sell anything that I didn't believe was right for clients. So even when I had the furniture business, when I had my mortgage business, I haven't even talked about, if it wasn't right, I would say, this is not right for you. You never sell to somebody when it's not right for them. But if you know it's really going to make a better impact, you have an obligation to make sure they have your product and your service. It benefits them, it benefits you, and it benefits overall society. So NLP is a skill of how to communicate. So when you and I communicate, in fact, easiest way to explain it If you go to different countries, different regions, even this country, you go from north to south, we'll say certain words that have a different meaning. It's like a different dialect. So you want to be able to speak in the language that the other person understands fully, and you want to be understood fully. So it's a way of communicating. It's also a way of understanding how we take an information on board. Some of us are auditory. We have to hear things to understand. Some of us are visual. We physically have to see something to truly understand it. And some people are kinesthetic. They're not comfortable unless they feel the person, the energy. They won't move forward. So you have an obligation how to communicate. And it's a skill to help you in all areas of your life. Relationships with loved ones, relationships with business partners, but more importantly, your relationship with your children. Inspire them and motivate them to do the things that you know are going to benefit them. So it's a skill that can be used for good, and it can also be used for other things. So NLP is used for hypnosis. Hypnosis can be used for good or for bad, right?
Yes.
It's not the tool; it's how you use the tool.
So it seems like so far you've had a life of experience in different jobs, and you realize by doing these different jobs, hang around the best people in them jobs if you want to learn the quickest way through experience. And by getting them skills, you're able to get them bonuses and capital and money. And with that money, you've realized where to put that money, invest it into endowment policies, whether doing some property flips and stuff as well.
Yeah.
So how did that elevate into a property business that you've done deals with JV partners to 50 million?
So I was with Sharp's Bedrooms, and I was earning really, really good money.
What does that mean?
Huh?
What does that mean?
Between 1 and 200,000, we're talking 20 odd years ago.
Okay.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, yes.
A lot of money. And they realized I was earning a lot of money, and they wanted to take the franchise back.
Wow.
However, when it comes to taking advice and information, I have a saying: if you think the cost of good advice is expensive, try the cost of poor advice, bad advice, or even worse, your own advice. So when they came to want to take the franchise back, in my franchise agreement, I had a renewal clause. So I did challenge them. I did use my professionals. I took them to court and I won. But I was only able to renew for one further extension. So I knew that was coming to an end. And there was a few other franchises the same. There was another guy that I was working with, similar. We wanted to find another product that we could have that didn't necessarily have customers in the same way. And we thought, well, why don't we buy a property for a pension? To start creating our own pension funds. So again, we didn't know what we didn't know. We saw 2 properties in Finchley, in a place called Stephen's Lodge. It was being sold as what's called a stock plot. The stock plots are the end of a developer's phasing of building. They had 2 remaining. One was the show flat. So they had the cost of having the person in the show flat. We offered a price lower than they wanted, below market value, didn't realise. So we bought 2 from the developer on the same day at below market value. There was another development not far up the road, and we did the same thing on that, not knowing what it is, but we ran out of money very quickly. So if you use your own money, at some point, you're going to run out. But property seemed like a great idea. We'd already got this instant equity, making great cash flow on those properties. And we thought, well, how do we get more? There was no real, what I call, proper education. So we started looking at America, overseas. Then went on a Russ Whitney course. They were started to come to the UK. There's a few other companies, started educating ourselves slowly on property. And then it started to snowball. And how it's really snowballed is that when my franchise came to an end, just before it came to an end, a friend of mine that was in financial services approached me and my other colleague at Sharp's Bedroom and said, we've got this new mortgage lender that's coming over from Australia. They want to build a sales force. We know that you're good at sales. Would you help recruit and train? So I had a look at this mortgage, I had a look at this company, and I thought this was incredible. And the reason why it was incredible, at the time, all mortgages in the UK, interest was calculated annually in arrears. So if you had a mortgage payment of £1,000 and you wanted to make an overpayment of £1,000, the lender wouldn't credit that £1,000 until the anniversary. Now that doesn't sound like very much. Then they also had linked to the mortgage a bank account, a current account mortgage. So if you had a £50,000 mortgage, you had £10,000 in your bank account, you'd only pay interest on 40,000, not on 50.
Like an offset mortgage.
Like an offset mortgage. So those two things combined, and they had a very sophisticated calculator. So that company was called First Active. That company today is called Virgin Money.
Okay.
However, because it was so new and so novel, and because of this calculator, when I start something new, I like to immerse myself to understand everything. So I spent about 4 or 5 weeks every day on this calculator, working out how to manipulate money to pay off your mortgage as quickly as possible without actually earning any more money. And I became the UK expert by far. So under then understanding mortgages, and then new mortgages started to come in, we set up a mortgage brokerage. There was other lenders with similar kind of products. There was Intelligent Finance, there was Woolwich, Barclays, First Active, then buy-to-let lenders. So we created a mortgage company. So added with the knowledge now of finance, mortgages, how mortgages work, my financial knowledge, my selling knowledge, property, they all sort of came together and it just more or less exploded. And at the time as well, we had a few other market conditions that weren't there. I could buy a property today that was worth 100,000. I could buy it for 75 or 80. I could remortgage it in the same afternoon and pull all my money back out.
Wow.
So different time, different conditions. Brian Tracy says the luck factor is when knowledge recognizes opportunity. That's the luck factor. When you have the knowledge and you can recognize it, you really have the luck factor.
On top of that, you decided to publish a book, right?
I did. So I published a book at the time when we had the mortgage business because we had the same problem reoccurring. So people would come to us, we would refinance them. They would have a car loan, a bank loan, credit cards. We'd consolidate everything for them. And 2 or 3 years later, they'd come back with new debt. So all that was happening is so if they were paying, say, £1,500 a month, by refinancing them, they came down to £800 or £900 a month. That £600 a month, they started spending on new debt. And I thought, this is crazy. Somebody needs to teach people how to manage their money and how to get out of debt. So if I said to you to start with, if you've got a car loan of 3 years, would you take it out for 20 years? You wouldn't, would you? If you've got a credit card that you would pay off in 3 or 4 years, would you take it for 20, 25 years? No. But people then would take those loans and then consolidate it into a mortgage for 20, 25 years. That's crazy. So now they're taking a debt was 3 to 5 years and making it over 20 years. So they're reducing their payments, but they're paying a huge amount more over a much longer period of time. So what we did, or what I did for all our clients, is we set up a new payment profile. So instead of saving the 500 or 600 by consolidating, which they did, we made that as an overpayment.
Right.
So they were still paying the same amount of money, but it was destroying the mortgage debt. They were paying off the mortgages 3, 5, 7, 10 years earlier.
Wow.
And what we did to make sure they did it, we set up standing orders. Because if you let somebody else do it, they won't do it. We took control, we set it all up, and we had tens of thousands of people paying off their mortgages 10, 12, 14 years earlier. So if you can imagine paying £1,000 a month in a mortgage, and you're not paying that for 10 years, how much more could you invest to create wealth? Or how much more can you spend to enjoy your life?
That's actually like a phenomenal deed as well, because you're helping people, get free of their mortgages, which is one of the main things that holds people down. But on the other side, it's shooting yourself in the foot. You're getting less mortgage people or mortgage debt, and people are leaving you quicker. Is that right?
We actually get more business. Have you ever been to a restaurant or seen a film, gone on holiday, and you're so happy by the experience, you just tell everybody about it?
Yeah.
So our referral rate, our recommendation rate was through the roof because people were seeing. So we weren't just mortgage brokers, we were mortgage and money management consultants. We would go through every single aspect of your income and expenditure. So we knew exactly what you were spending, how much you could afford to pay, and we built a payment profile that allowed you to do that. And that doesn't even take into account increase through inflation, through wages, right? Because your income. So you can accelerate it even further. We set up a plan to make sure they paid off their mortgage. And when we went back to them to refinance if they needed to, whose advice they're going to take?
Yourself, yeah. Great long-term thinking. So talk to me about some of your books that the 6 steps to financial freedom.
Okay, so the 6 step financial freedom is all about eliminating your debt. First and foremost, it's about getting you angry with the system and teaching you how to do compound interest in reverse. What mortgage lenders do is they use compound interest for them. So a 25-year mortgage, the first 2/3 of the term is mainly interest. You only start eating into the capital in the last third. By using my debt destroyer or snowball system, it's completely reverse. You start eating into the capital immediately. That way you can actually pay off your debt much faster. It teaches you about delayed gratification. It teaches you how to shop. Even when you go to the supermarket, there's 3 levels of pricing when you go to the supermarket. So you go to Tesco's or Sainsbury's, anything at eye level is premium brand. That's the highest price. Then if you have to reach a little bit higher, above eye level, that's 20 to 25% cheaper. And then for those people that don't like to exercise, when you bend down to the bottom shelves, that's 40 to 75% cheaper than the middle shelf.
Wow.
So just shopping in the same place, same food, which is often in the same factories, just with a different name or different brand or different label, you can save 25 to 75% of your weekly shopping. The people that didn't think they have money left to start paying towards their mortgage, they now do. If you're spending £200 a month, you save £25 or 25%. That's £50 a month saving that you can start eating into your capital. And it's the compound effect that accelerates it.
This looks more and more like psychology.
Yep.
The thinking behind it. And once you crack that, you can crack. It's like predicting the future. Do you know what I mean? Like, where does that psychology come from? Is there someone that you follow or a book that you read that's helped you learn these psychological traits?
Yeah, I wouldn't lie. There's been a few people that have had a massive impact on me to change my mindset. So some of the books are Think and Grow Rich, The Richest Man in Babylon, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within. That book's a really thick book, but it really awakens the giant within. It gets you to understand how much more we're capable of doing as long as we're consistent. It's the consistency. Just like your podcast. Your first one wouldn't be a hit. It's the consistency, the habits of you doing it over and over again that achieve the results. And all of a sudden people say, oh, Sean Land.
Yeah.
But that's not true. All the stuff that you've done beforehand, the trial, the tribulations, to get to that point, and people say, oh, you're successful. No, look at all the stuff you've done before. It's the consistency, it's the daily habits, the compound effect over a period of time that will show the results. And the more you do it over a longer period of time, the more the results. The younger you start, the more the results.
I love that. Very good lessons. Where do people get hold of your book, by the way?
So they can get hold of either my book on Amazon, Kindle, any of the normal sort of channels. That first book was endorsed by Brian Tracy, who you might have heard, renowned motivational speaker, and the late Bill Bartman, who was USA Billionaire Entrepreneur of the Year twice. Wow. He was also in the business of helping people get out of debt, and they both endorsed the book because really it's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, to be out of debt as quickly as possible. And there is a difference between good debt and bad debt.
Hmm. Now, how do you get like networked? How do you network with these people? How do you find these people? How do they find you? How do you get endorsed? Like, how are you able to reach these people?
That's a very good question. So endorsement. So I've been to Brian Tracy and Bill Mott and heard them both speak. So being in close proximity. So it's self-education, educating myself, making sure that I have the right knowledge. But there is a process that you have to go to. Even when you actually meet these people in person, they get hundreds of requests. So the way that I was told and shown it is I approached them by, then it was emails. So email them, but telling them why I'm approaching them. And part of the email was explaining that I do follow them, what I've learned from them, what they've inspired me to do. And I've written a book, and I'd be eternally grateful if they would look at the book and give me an endorsement. So you're not just asking for endorsement, it's actually adding the value, telling them how much they've inspired me, which they have. So not making shit up, it's actually being truthful. And you'll be surprised how often you'll get an endorsement back if you do it in the right way.
Does it cost you money?
Didn't cost me anything than time.
Amazing. I like that. A little while ago, you mentioned that you're originally from a Jewish background. There's a lot of stuff in the media right now. What are your thoughts about it? Because we see just post after post of what's happening in Palestine. You see people injured, blooded, children dying. They say that there's over 50,000 people dead already, and that's genocide sort of level. What are your thoughts, being, Jewish and from the other side? Because I don't really know what's going on. I'll be honest. I just see what's on the media and I just feel sorry for them humans who are losing their lives at no fault of their own from what I can see. What do you think about it?
I can answer this in many different ways. And also because I'm Jewish, I'm going to probably have a bit of a bias. That's natural. When it comes to anyone dying in any time, any shape, any form, it's a tragedy, whether it be Jewish, Christian, Muslim. So I don't condone any kind of death. However, from outside looking in, we're making assumptions without having all the right information. In terms of culture, there's a cultural difference. So Israel used the bombs and missiles to protect the people. Hamas, not the Palestinian, Hamas, who run that region, use people to protect their bombs. It's a different psychology. Also, if we look at other wars, so if we look at the war currently with Russia, when you have soldiers that are being killed on either side, you know how many people are being killed on either side. When you have an army that's made up of children, women, older people, who do you know is the real soldier, is the real enemy? There is no other army in the world that lets you know in advance the areas they're going to be bombing or want it to be cleared, to give full notice and leaflet drop. If people are still being there and being killed in the masses, it's not because they can't leave, it's because they're not allowed to leave. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're saying that the Israeli army is saying we're going to be bombing this location at this time, but the people are not leaving, and is it because of their leaders? Is that what you're saying?
They're not allowed to leave. If you look at a lot of the Middle Eastern countries, how much money has been spent on what they've done. Look at Dubai, look at the other regions. And if you look at how much money has gone into that area, specifically into that area, where's that money gone? It hasn't gone into schools, it hasn't gone into education, it hasn't gone into business. It's gone into missiles, armory, tunnels. And again, it's easy or easier for us to give our opinion looking from the outside in. And I said I will have my own bias because I am Jewish. But understanding and trying to get a more rounded view is what we all need to do. And people are forgetting what happened on the 7th of October. And you also have to remember the Jewish people have a history of people trying to wipe us out. The Holocaust was 6 million because they didn't do anything. And if you've got tunnels coming into all areas of your country that you're not able to do, what do you do? The problem now is a real problem. What's the answer? The answer is only peace. That can only be the answer, to live together. We can all live in this country side by side in peace. Why can't they live side by side in peace there? We're all human. If I cut you and I cut me, we still bleed. Our blood's the same color. Our religion might be different, but we're not really different, really, are we?
What do you mean by tunnels?
What I mean by tunnels, the tube, if you can imagine, the tube goes from Cockfosters all the way to Brixton, and then it goes in all different areas, directions, and those tunnels are designed to be able that you can attack at any time into a civilian population and kill any civilian at any time. So that's what they're trying to protect, is their citizens from those kind of attacks. So how do you stop it if you don't know where they are, but you know that they exist? So if you're building hospitals on top of these sort of tunnels, if you're keeping your soldiers in and around hospitals, how do you stop it? It's a very difficult situation, and Israel aren't very good when it comes to propaganda. The Palestinians and Hamas are fantastic at it. Social media can give you whatever you want to. One of the questions you might want to ask yourself is, why aren't any of the other Arab states opening their borders to allow refugees for their people, their brethren? Why?
Can you tell us?
I can give you my opinion, because it's happened before, because they don't know who Hamas is. They don't know who are the good and who are the bad. They're not prepared to destabilize their governments and their region by having that kind of soldiers to destabilize. And it's happened in other regions. That's why it's not happening. But think about it logically. Egypt could open their border. Jordan could open their border, take people in, have refugees, make it easier. But nobody is. Why? Why?
What about when we just see on the news that a missile just hit a hospital, innocent doctors and kids, like people who are being cared for, and Israel's sort of done that. That's what we see on the news. Like, how can you have compassion? How can you say that's right in any way, shape, or form?
You can't justify any innocent killing. There's no justification. People dying is serious. If it was your relative, my relative, we'd be devastated. But there's also occasions where they say it's an Israel missile, and then you actually see the trajectory of where that missile came from, and it came from Palestine. And because their missiles aren't sophisticated, it's turned back. And that's one of the ones that happened a few months ago. It was proven it wasn't an Israeli missile, but occasionally it does. Even in America, they've had friendly fire where they've killed their own soldiers. It happens in war. War's horrible to everyone. Look what happened in Britain in the war. Germany. Look how many people were killed by the Germans bombing London. No, there is no war that has a good outcome. And more often than not, wars are fueled and paid for by other people in other regions. So who's paying for the Hamas? missiles? Who's paying for the Israeli missiles? War's also about money. Who's paying for Russia? Who's paying for Ukraine? Russia. War in some shape or form is to do with money and control, and we won't know all the reasons.
Now, you mentioned Hamas and the incidents that happened in October, and a lot of people would say, look, that's a rebel group who just attacked Israel, and now the whole of Israel attacked Israel, and all the Palestinians are getting blamed for this small group. But how can you compare that atrocities, what happened to that, compared to the death toll, what's happening to Palestine? Is that a reason?
So Hamas isn't a small group. It's the army and the people organization controlling the Palestinians. I think if you ask most of the Palestinians, really, do they want a better life? They'd all say yes. Before all of this started, most people don't know, Palestinians come over to Israel every day to work and earn money in Israel. There's hundreds, thousands of Arabs already working in Israel, living in Israel, have the same voting right in Israel, are MPs in the Knesset in Israel. Arabs have a voice in Israel, but that's never really talked about. Can you imagine in any Arab country that they would allow Jewish MPs? The democracy in Israel isn't really talked about, but it's so widespread. In Israel, you have all walks of life, all religions that live together, all sexual credences, openly. Would you get the same in any Arab country or state? The information that comes out is not balanced. And when you have a balanced view, you can still have a view, but have it as a balanced view. And I say, don't believe anything I say. Verify it yourself.
Where is the truth?
The truth always lies probably in the middle. As in any argument, there's one version, the other version, and the truth, which is probably the middle. And it's having the ability to have compassion, understanding. You and I can have a discussion because we have mutual respect. We're able to think through. We don't believe that our view is the only view. There's many views to anything. If you look at it a different perspective, even a car crash, if we're on different sides of the road, you'll see one side, I'll see another. We'll see it from a different point of view. Doesn't make you right, doesn't make me wrong. But you have to have a more balanced view, and we don't tend to have a balanced view. We tend to take whatever social media throws our way, and it isn't always true. We know it isn't always true until later. COVID was one of those things. Isn't true. Wasn't true.
Emmanuel, I could speak all day to you, honestly, because this is one reason why I got you on the podcast, because I know you have a voice, you're educated, and, you make, you open up conversations in terms of a lot of people wouldn't be, and even I was skeptical asking this question, but I just want to know, I just want things to get better. I just want an open mind. I just want people to be together, get along together. There's more bigger problems in the world than us creating man-made problems and going, I don't like you, you don't like me, let's hurt each other. The answer to everything in the world is love and peace.
I couldn't agree more.
I think that's a good way to finish this podcast off. You're going to be off to a TV interview today, is that right?
Well, I'm actually going to a YouTube reality show.
Okay.
When is this being aired?
This is in about 2-3 weeks' time.
Okay. So there's a very large YouTube podcast called Sidemen.
Okay.
And they have between 10 and 20 million subscribers, depending which channel it gets aired.
Wow.
And it's, I'll say it's a reality show where you've got 5 people in the room and they have to guess who the millionaire is. And
Are you going to go in dressed like this?
No.
Okay.
I'm not going dressed. I've got some spare clothes that I brought with me. I have to dress down.
And do you have to act like the way you do? Is it like a challenge for you not to act like a certain way, or
Yeah,
tone things down?
you don't want to make it obvious, so they
Yeah.
need to try and guess who it is. So
Yeah.
you got to sort of play yourself down. You got to be truthful, which I will be,
Yeah.
but you need to play yourself down, which I will do.
Oh, well, you've got your work cut out there. I'll give you that because as soon as I saw you on the beach, I was like, yeah, that's the millionaire. Spot you a mile off the man. Like, how can you be at that age, looking at body conditions? You've got money, you've got knowledge, you've upgraded stuff within yourself. That's how I see it. Emmanuel, if there's a final message you'd like to give the viewers at home, what would it be?
My final message is that we all need balance in our life. Our health is our foundation, no question. Our health, mental health and physical health. Then relationships with colleagues, children, loved ones, relationship with yourself. And last but not least, money is really important. So that's why we wrote the other book, Wealth Beyond Money. So you can create true balance and harmony. And the last thing I'd like to leave you with is that have gratitude for whatever you have in life. Don't look at other people. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Just compare yourself to who you were the day before, and you'll live a very happy and contented life.
Amazing. And what's the best place for people to follow you?
Best place to follow me is either my website, which is immanuelezekiel.co.uk, or via LinkedIn or any other social media platform.
Amazing. Thank you. And there you go, guys. Another great episode. I hope that really benefited you because it's given me the belief that, do you know what? Just keep hanging around the right people. As they say, your network is your net worth. So if you're in the wrong rooms and you're not getting ahead, you know exactly why. Find new rooms, find new community, find new social media pages that you could consume. Your environment isn't just a room that you're physically in, but that room inside your head, how you're waking up in the morning. Are you doing your bed? Are you organizing your stuff for your day? That's where it all starts from. So I hope you really enjoyed this. So please don't forget to smash the subscribe button, leave Emmanuel a comment. I'll make sure you get an answer, and share this with somebody who might need it. So until next time, peace.